She's been a workshop facilitator, and through it all, most of all, Sherry has been a storyteller. Through mystical Celtic tales, haunting ballads, historical narratives, wise folk tales, and personal stories, is there anything you don't do? Sherry swirls together a magical stew to delight audiences from school assemblies to a variety of adult performances. What do you mean, a variety of adult performances?
Oh, dancer.
Whoa.
That's where I recognize.
That's great. Great.
Okay, Sherry's mission is to inspire, encourage, entertain, and connect with people through the art of storytelling. Sherry is an ordained minister for the purpose of officiating weddings.
And Wendy too.
Wendy's. Officiating Wendy's only because she's a romantic.
Aw.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friend and soon to be yours, Sherry Lovett.
This is a live audience. I can tell y'all are wild. Hello, everyone. It is so great to be at the Story Parlor. This is my first time here. How many of you have been here before? Man, that's amazing. Okay, how about first timers like me? First timers? Woohoo! Yes, awesome. Well, I'm delighted to be first up for y'all, and lovely introduction. Thank you, Chuck. I'm going to start you off on a little bit of a serious note. I have a historical piece that I'd like to share with you that has a personal element. So here we go. We leave our homes in the morning. We kiss our children goodbye. While we slave for the bosses, our children scream and cry. And when we draw our money, our grocery bill to pay, not a cent to spend for clothing, not a cent to lay away. And on that very evening, our little son will say, I need some shoes, Mother, and so does Sister May. Oh, it grieves the heart of a mother, you everyone must know. But we can't buy for our children, our wages are too low. Yeah. Yep. That's the truth. That is the beginning of a ballad written by Ella Mae Wiggins, a strong, determined woman with a mind of her own. Ella Mae was born in 1900 in the Appalachian Mountains to a poor family. She spent her childhood moving from one logging camp to another. Her mother died when she was 18, and her father died about a year later. And it was at that time that Ella Mae met and married a man by the name of John Wiggins. And in less than a year, they had their first child. Now, John thought they ought to move to a mill town so as they could get a mill job and have a regular income. Well, that took them to Cowpen, South Carolina. And Ella Mae's work in the textile mills began. Well, they moved from one mill town to another mill town to another mill town until in 1926, Ella Mae and her children landed in Gaston County, North Carolina. But not John. John abandoned Ella Mae and their children. And that left Ella Mae to tend to her family all by herself. But Ella Mae was a strong, determined woman with a mind of her own. She got a job with the Luray American Mill No. 2. She worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And she only made $9 for her efforts. Now, at that time, segregation was the law of the land. But as I've said, Ella May had a mind of her own. Ella May rented a little shack outside Bessemer City in an African-American neighborhood known as Stumptown. And her neighbors helped watch her children while she worked. Mill work was hard work. Long hours, noisy, dirty, tedious work. And it was beginning to get harder because the economy was in decline. And there was more competition for the textile mills. So the mill owners, mostly Northerners who'd come to the South to take advantage of the lenient labor laws here, decided to employ new scientific management practices. Well, this meant they were going to require their workers to work longer hours and harder for the same money, sometimes less. Yeah. The mill owners called it new scientific management practices. But the workers called it the stretch out. Now, during that time period, a lot of folks associated unions with communism. And in North Carolina, sentiments ran high against both. But with mill conditions getting to be so bad, the National Textile Workers Union decided the time was right to gain a foothold in the South. So they sent a union organizer named Fred Beale to come look for a mill where conditions were so bad the people would be ready for a union. He found one. The Luray American Mill No. 2. The people there were ready for a union, including Ella May. Ella May was a strong, determined woman with a mind of her own. She embraced the union. She learned organizational and strike tactics. She became the union bookkeeper. She took on segregation and said that all people need to stand together if the union was going to be successful. She even testified in Washington, D.C. But whether she was testifying in D.C. or speaking at a regular meeting, she shared her personal story, and it had a powerful impact. I'm the mother of 9 children. They all got the whooping cough. I was working nights. I asked the super if he'd put me on days so as I could tend them during their bad spells, but he wouldn't let me. I don't know why. 4 of my children died. I never made no more than $9 a week. You can't tend to a family on money such as that. That's why I come out for the union. That's why we've all got to stand together for the union, so as we can do better for our children, and they won't have lives like we got. And Ella May would sing. She was the union balladeer. Fred Beale remembers. No evening would pass without a song from our Ella May. She'd be standing in the corner scribbling a new verse on the back of a union leaflet when someone would call out for her to sing. She'd step forward and, in her deep, resonant voice, sing a simple ballad. That ballad would drift off into old hymns and spirituals. Many a praise the Lord would resound through the quiet night. Ella May sang with an unmodulated vibrancy that touched the emotions of her listeners. When she sang, it grieves the heart of a mother you everyone must know. Everyone did know. And when she sang, let's stand together and have a union here, the crowd thrilled to the militancy in her voice. Ella May's ballads went from one mill to another, carrying better than any union leaflet the message about how the union could help the people have a better life. Well, when the union did get going, in the spring of 1929, 5 people were fired. The union voted to strike, and 1,700 people left their mill jobs. But when the mill refused to negotiate, and the money was gone, and there was no food, many of those folks had to go back to their mill jobs. But 100 or so, including Ella May, were determined to stay the course. Even when they were forced out of their mill housing and had to live in a tent village set up by the union, they wouldn't give up. And tension in Gaston County began to mount. One day, Chief Adderholt and some local men who had been deputized went to break up a peaceful picket line made up of mostly women and children. Chief Adderholt was kind enough, but the local men were rough and rude and crude, showed little mercy. Then they went to the tent village. Confusion broke out, shots were fired, and Chief Adderholt was killed. The strikers were rounded up. 16 of them were charged with the death of Chief Adderholt, but they were later released when a mistrial was called, and tension in Gaston County continued to mount. Ella May was seen as a particular threat because of her stance on segregation and her association with the National Textile Workers Union. And she knew it. She'd been threatened. Her well water had been poisoned. But Ella May was a strong, determined woman with a mind of her own. They'll have to kill me to make me give up the union. In September of 1929, Ella May and some other members were making their way to a meeting when they were met by an angry armed mob and forced to turn around. They'd gone about 5 miles back toward home when a car blocked their way. Armed men jumped out and began to shoot, and Ella May was shot in the chest and killed. Ella May's body rests in a cemetery in Gaston County with a headstone that reads, "She was killed carrying the torch of social justice." Now, though Ella May's death is tragic, her life made a difference. Because though unions never caught hold, mill conditions did improve with better hours and better pay. And I know this to be true because I am the daughter of a textile mill worker. My father worked for over 30 years in a textile mill, and my family never lacked for a thing. And I know that to be due, at least in part, to the efforts of Ella May. It is for our little children that seem to us so dear, but for us nor them, dear workers, the bosses do not care. But understand our workers, our union they do fear. Let's stand together, workers, and have a union here. In honor of Ella May. Thank you. Thank you. Ella May. And a rubbing from her grave.
Wow.
Thank you.
Very Lovett, everybody.
Wow.
Very Lovett.